Welcome to Amy Kardashian and the Expert Show, where the experts share their knowledge, wisdom, and powerful insights to help you transform your business and personal life. This show is about real world education and beyond. In every segment, I usually have some subject about either business, self-development, and inspirational. This particular segment is special to my heart because, as many of you know, I am Armenian, and this month, April month, is about the memory of the Armenian genocide. And I wanted to make sure I bring someone who have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share with us and shed light on the Armenian genocide. And I can't wait to introduce you to Apo Jabarian. Apo, he's going to introduce himself right now, and then I'm going to ask him some questions as someone didn't know much about the Armenian genocide, but because I want to ask questions that you might have. Some of you heard about the genocide, some of you know a little bit about it. So in this show, you are going to experience and know more and have more knowledge about what happened to the Armenian genocide in 1915. So welcome, Apo.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
Of course. Can you please let us introduce yourself, let us know your background a little bit?
I'm not really good at introducing myself, but I'll make it real brief. I'm an actor, professional actor, member of SAG-AFTRA, a writer, a publisher, publicist, and most importantly, activist. Self-appointed activist, a volunteer activist, fighting for basic human rights, including I'm an advocate for the rights of all genocide victims, not just Armenian genocide victims.
That's why you're here, Apo. That's why you're here, because I know you're Lebanese Armenian like me, and
yes.
I know that our ancestors suffered a lot, but we want to make sure that in the 21st century, still happening right now, as you know that. We want to make sure to shed light into this and make sure we stand for human rights. Especially we live in the United States. We're supposed to be fighting for human righs. And
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit, educate us a little bit about the Armenians first, and then we'll go a little bit further.
I know there is time limit, so I'll make it real brief. Of course, the topic requires many more
hours,
like shows to elaborate, but I'll make it real brief. So Armenian genocide is about land grab, suppression of identity, and massive dispossession. Our ancestors, yours and mine, and like us, many others, were forcibly deported, many of them killed, on ancestral lands, and the surviving orphans were expelled, were forcibly sent out of the ancestral lands in Western Armenia and Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia. My grandparents, both paternal and maternal, come from Sis, capital of Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia, and they were of very few surviving orphans who left behind over 80 relatives who were massacred by the Turkish army and the gangs who helped the Turkish government to depopulate our ancestral lands from Armenians. And also, we must be fair in remembering concurrent genocides at the hands of the Turkish government, which includes the Greek genocide, the Assyrian genocide, and nowadays that genocidal philosophy and a way of government sadly continues till today. And today's ISIS and Nusra front committed genocide is the continuation of many genocides, and most importantly, Turkish genocide of Armenians, Greeks, Assyrians, and other Christians, including today's Turkish policy of genocidal campaign against their own fellow Muslim population, the Kurds.
Wow.
So the lesson that I would like to pick up from my experience as a third generation survivor of the genocide, you're also a third generation survivor of the Armenian genocide, is not only fight for justice for my own people, but also justice for many other victim nations around the world. And as you may have seen in the past, I've been actively writing about the Darfur genocide, for example. Mm-hmm. Darfur is a small country in Africa, and it used to be part of Sudan, the Sudanese form of government, and the Darfuris fought for independence, and in return, they were treated with genocidal campaign by the Sudanese government.
Wow.
Eventually, many activists from around the world stepped in, including our own famous actor George Clooney, who survived a live bullet when he went to Darfur to personally witness the genocidal campaign against the Darfuri people. He survived a real live bullet attack against him. So the lesson that I'd like to share with our fellow Americans is not to sit idly by when something bad is happening to our neighbors, to distant friends, to totally unknown individuals, just because there is some kind of criminal mind at work to rob the victims. In our case, in the case of Armenians and Greeks and Assyrians, it was basically land grab by the young Turkish regime that took over these lands, and they created today's Turkey on the ashes of Western Armenia, Armenian Cilicia, Greek Pontus, Greek Constantinople, which is now called Istanbul, and Greek Smyrna, and also Assyrian Mardin and other areas belonging to the Kurdish people, who are fighting for
their life right now,
like sovereignty in today's north, east and northwest part of Iraq and Syria.
Wow, I mean, I know the Armenian genocide started in 1915, which is 100.
Actually, Armenian genocide started in late 1800s under the Red Sultan. Sultan Abdul Hamid was called the Red Sultan because it was under his watch that the Turkish government-sponsored genocidal campaign started in 1890s and then continued on in 1908 under the Young Turks, and it took off on a larger scale in 1915 under the Young Turks, and it also continued under today's Turkish Republic till 1923. So Armenian, the most major segment of Turkish perpetrated Armenian genocidal campaign started in 1915 and ended in 1923. And as a result of the genocide, there was massive loss of human lives, and also massive loss of ancestral lands, and the victim people, in this case Armenian, our ancestors, lost their real and personal properties, besides losing their ancestral lands in Western Armenia and Armenian Cilicia, which continue to be occupied by Turkey today. So when we say Armenian genocide, it's not just killing, but also massive dispossession. So we have to bear in mind that Armenian genocide really had different stages. Mm-hmm. First, you kill the victim, and then you misappropriate the properties of the victims, and you misappropriate the national homeland, which is the ancestral lands in Western Armenia and Cilicia. So, and then once you illegally misappropriate, you become rich. Like today's Turkish society is directly and indirectly governed by elite families who turned out to be the beneficiaries of the genocide blood money. So many
Wow.
of the elite families in today's Turkey have a lot of money, and 100 years ago, they didn't have that kind of money. So, and many of them, if an intelligent investigative journalist investigates, will find out that the monies that they have created, the riches that they have created, they did not create it through legitimate business practices. They didn't rob a Turkish bank, but they did rob the Armenian victims of the genocide.
What do you want to see? I know that you're not here to take revenge, because you don't want
No.
revenge.
No,
And
no, it's not
you
fair.
don't want revenge, and you don't want recognition. What are you looking for to have?
The answer is very simple. If there is a crime and there is a victim, the victim is entitled to justice. So this is a universal understanding. So how would you like if somebody, let's say in a nice American town or village, somebody goes into your family, kills your parents, kills your grandparents, kicks you out of the house, takes all your monies and bank accounts, and then you become homeless as a result of that. And then 20, 30, 50 years after the crime, when suddenly he is discovered as being the perpetrator of the crime, would come to you and tell you, "Oh, I apologize, but I don't owe you anything." Is that
Yeah.
justice?
No, of course not. Of course not. So you're looking for justice.
So justice is the number one condition for healing of the victim, and also healing of the children of the perpetrators. In today's Turkey, by the way, thanks to the internet, there has been large-scale communication between individuals like myself, survivors of the Armenian genocide, second, third, and fourth generation, and Turkish intellectuals in Turkey and around the world, and especially in Germany and other countries, who are waking up to the fact that their grandparents' generation, grand and great-grandparents' generation, perpetrated a major crime against humanity, and as a result of that, their would-be neighbors, their future neighbors are no longer there. They disappeared. So even though the Turkish government, generation after generation, misguided the Turkish student population for decades, all of a sudden now the truth is coming out. There is an army of Turkish intellectuals who are stepping forward and saying, we apologize for what happened, and we recognize the need to make amends for the crime committed against the Armenian nation.
But as you were saying, recognizing is not enough.
I'm not looking.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for revenge.
You want to,
I am looking for justice.
You're looking for
basically-
justice. Now, because when you have justice, then you have an example to other countries not to do the same thing. So therefore,
Absolutely.
therefore
Because of the
we're
Armenian
preventing.
genocide perpetrators
Yes.
remain unpunished, Hitler committed the Jewish Holocaust.
Sure. So
Hitler declared, he boasted to his generals when he was masterminding the Jewish Holocaust, he said, who nowadays speak of the Armenians?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because in up until late 1930s, Turkey continued to remain unpunished and was not held accountable for its crimes against humanity.
Sure.
So by leaving the perpetrator of any crime unpunished, we're setting a very, very bad example to other potential perpetrators.
Exactly,
who
but
would
that's
be-
why we're
who would
having
be
it. In
encouraged to step forward and commit their crime. Why? Because our society is sending the wrong signal that it's okay if you commit a crime. You're not going to be held accountable, and you're going to get to keep the loot that you take from your victims.
And therefore it's going to be repeated, and that's why now in the 21st century we're still dealing with it, because
It's
we
very
need to
sad.
hold.
It's very
yeah,
sad
it's
that
very sad.
nowadays humanity
Sure.
is witnessing the ISIS perpetrated genocide against Christians in Syria and
Armenians too,
and
against
Iraq,
Armenians
and also
and-
other minorities,
Yeah.
Yazidis, the Kurds, the devout Muslims who are very tolerant towards Christians. So it doesn't make sense.
And this is not against Muslim or Christians. This is against humanity, period.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, because
the
there is so
Turkish-
many Muslims are really getting hit from ISIS as well. So, and then
Absolutely.
there is a lot of Turkish people, they recognize what happened to the genocide. But we need to stand up, all of us together, Muslim and Christian, to fight for humans' right. And then when we demand to have someone not just recognize it, but really pay the price and in somewhere say, yes, I did this and this shouldn't happen again, then the other countries will be like, oops, if I do this, somebody's gonna hold me accountable. And especially we're in the United States. I mean, you live here in the United States, I live in the United States. This video could be watched everywhere in the world. So I want to make sure we're in the United States to tell them that. And we are example to the world. I mean, which kind of example we are giving if we're letting countries do whatever they want to do they could do whatever they want to do. We're not here to tell them stand up and sit down and not do whatever you need, but against humanity. This has to stop. It has to stop somewhere.
Absolutely. The lessons that we could derive from Armenian and other genocides that have taken place is that we cannot turn a blind eye and treat ourselves as being
It's okay
neutral.
with that.
So,
We're okay
we
with
cannot
it.
we cannot afford, humanity and society at large cannot afford to remain neutral in the face of any crime. And in the
Absolutely.
face of any crime being perpetrated against any people, whether the victims is
Muslim,
victim is
Christian,
black,
whoever they
white,
are, it's not against
red,
humanity.
or yellow, doesn't matter.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if the victim is Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, etc., etc. So we cannot sit idly by and allow ourselves to be passive watchers of a crime. And today, I'm encouraged to say that because of the level of awareness being raised among many peoples here in the United States and around the world, there is a strong wave of protest and condemnation of any genocidal campaign. And that's very
Absolutely.
encouraging.
Absolutely. As you know, my show, it's not about any political, it's all about self-development, business, and, inspiration stories. But I wanted to have you last year, and I wasn't ready for this kind of show. But I wanted to make sure this year I have you, because each one of us can step up for human rights
Absolutely.
somehow, somewhere. Even if this show it's not about that, it is about helping people transform their business and personal life. But there is some point that we could use our platform to really speak up about this and stand up for it.
I am hopeful that your initiative becomes a source of inspiration for many journalists and public speakers and TV hosts to, even though your show is about business,
Yes.
but business without morality cannot flourish.
Absolutely.
Business without principle and a set of healthy value system cannot, foster success and financial.
So what we're- Absolutely. So what we're trying to say, use your platform, anything you could on Facebook, share this video, share the information. We appreciate you for doing that. Apple, I really appreciate you for coming back on the show. I know I had you before for the movie, for the film, and I appreciate your information and being on my show again. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for watching. And please don't hesitate to share this knowledge, shed the light on this, the Armenian
Absolutely.
genocide and what's happening in the 21st century in the world. We need to stand up for the human right. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much for
Thanks so
being
much for having me, and I'd like to encourage you to look at life experiences as source of education for all of us, because without education, without any progress in the field of knowledge, we cannot make things better. And
Thank you.
business, after all, was created to make our lives better and raise the level of quality of our lives. So
Absolutely.
why not use education in many different angles and make the quality of our lives better? Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for having me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having. Thank you for being with us today.